Well, Bix, obviously after the weekend, what's been the theme or the focus for this week so far?
Yeah, look, we haven't had a main session yet. We probably, because we've got a little bit of time for our next game, we've done obviously a fairly lengthy review. So we've identified a whole heap of areas. We worked on some today, but there's a lot of obvious ones. Our ball movement last week was very slow. Our tackling was poor. They're two things that will be high on our priorities that we'll work on between now and next Saturday.
Does having the break this week benefit you in a way because you can spend more time on them, or would you rather just get back on the horse?
I don't know. We've got a break and that's it. So we'll go with what we're given, and in some ways it's good. It gives us a little bit of time to really focus on some of the areas we did poorly. So the expectation will be next time we get a chance, we'll be a lot better, and there's plenty of those things that we can improve on.
Are they significant? They can be fixed quickly, or are they bigger issues that might take a bit more time than you've identified?
No, look, I think they can be fixed quickly. You don't lose your ability overnight, and I think that this group has shown that they respond really strongly. Last year we didn't lose 2 games in a row, so it's an area that we're happy with in terms of our ability to respond when challenged. So we're certainly challenging the players this week.
Looking back at the review, were the guys flat, like watching it second time around? Was it that they were flat, or?
What is flat? It's. I think that's a bit of a cop out. It's round 1. It's a big occasion. We've waited all the pre-season. The players would have said they were, highly anticipating the game. So, I think that's a bit of a cop out. And what happened was that. Essendon put us under pressure, and they did a lot of things really well, and we did a lot of things below our best. So one of the things that, as a football club, we have an expectation of is that we perform as close to our best as often as possible, and we were nowhere near our best on the weekend. And last year I thought we were really consistent, and that's certainly the expectation we have this year, that we perform consistently to a high standard.
Given being a cop-out, Richard Douglas said on Monday that particularly about the tackling, that it might have been a bit of an attitude thing. What did he mean by that?
I'm not sure. What I do know is that when you are feverish with your attitude and your intensity, that translates into the tackling pressure. And I think we looked at Essendon, and they took away our time and space, and they were in our face as soon as we got the ball, and we weren't like that to them. So. That's something that we've got to improve upon. Now, I don't know what the reason is for that, but certainly it'll be driven home that it has to happen next time we play.
Just saw Brad Crouch out there back doing a fair bit of training. Is he one player that could really be pushing for selection round 2, do you think?
I think so. I think there's a number of guys that we'll be looking at. Ian Callanan, whether he can get himself fit. Sam Shaw's another, Crouchy's another. There's a couple that were unlucky to miss out as well. So Richard Tambling's been in really good form after a slight back injury. So there's a whole range of guys, and for most of those blokes, they get an opportunity to play in the SANFL this week. So it's a fantastic thing for us. We get a chance to go along and have a look. Sean McKernan probably fits into that category as well. So we'll see how those guys perform.
A few players who should be worried after the last performance as well. Maybe look over their shoulder at somebody might pinch their spot.
I don't know whether they're worried, but when you lose when you're expected to win, that's generally not a good sign. If you don't play well, you wouldn't want to do that too often, would you? I guess. And that's across the board. I'm not sure how you went picking the best players if you're at the game, but it would have been a fairly tough assignment. So. All players would recognise that they need to improve.
When you're talking about ball movement, speeding up ball movement, is it more about the player making a quick decision and getting on with it, or is it about everybody around him presenting?
Well, there's lots of explanations to that. One is if the easiest way to get fast ball movement is to turn the ball over from the opposition, because they've run forward and they're in a position where they think it's going to happen. If you're able to whether it be put them under enough pressure to win the ball, then obviously they're up the ground and you've got your ability to move it quickly back. So that's about pressure. So we need to do that better. But there are times in a game, whether it be a free kick or a mark, when you get held up, where I just thought we probably weren't, we didn't have the urgency to want to move it quicker. And I think we've in the past we've done that fairly well, and we've had an air of confidence where we've backed our kick. I think on the weekend we probably looked at using that kick and then decided that we'd probably be a bit more conservative and move it a bit slowly. So, I think you'll find that we'll be endeavouring to be a bit more urgent next time we play.
I know last year Brendan talked a bit about analysing his own coaching performance after games. Have you guys sort of analysed the coaching group from the weekend, and how did you guys assess perhaps what happened there?
Oh, we do that all the time. We talk about, we prepare obviously for a lot of different scenarios, and then quite often those scenarios unfold and we're ready to do things, and then there's other scenarios that you can't prepare for everything that pop up, and we sort of talk about if we had our time again what we do differently. So that happens every week. I don't really want to share with you our critiques. Would there be some things we did differently? I'm not sure. There's a whole range of things we tried that didn't work, and part of that though is, if you don't have that intensity, which we talked about, and you don't have that pressure, then you can try lots of different things, but they often don't work. So we do that as a routine, as a coaching group.
Mark, just on Ian Callan, and back to him again. Provided he gets through this weekend, how close is he to play round 2, and is he back to full fitness?
Yeah, well, once again, it's a little bit early, so we're the plan would be to have a 4 weeks training, next week before the game. So he's still in that sort of rehab phase and doing everything he can to give himself a tilt at training fully next week and making himself available. Now, whether we pick him or not, look, I think Ian has probably proven his worth, and there's he was I think our second highest goal kicker last year, and it's a really difficult matchup for teams. So just at this stage, my opinion would be that he'd be very, very close to playing, I'd say.
And can I also, I think you said it on radio on the weekend as well, but can I just get your opinion on just, we've seen 2 games with it now, but with the new sliding rule?
Oh, look, I think the principle of the rule, it's there for us to abide by. So, the one with Riley, I think, is an obvious one. I think that's exactly what the rule's trying to stamp out. But I think if you go back and watch the game, I think there's probably 6 involvements where there's contact below the knee, and there's 2 free kicks. Now, you watch it and you make decisions, and it goes both ways. And umpires are learning the same as we are. So I think what the players would ask is that they'll get used to it as games go on. Hopefully the umpires get used to it as games go on, and once the interpretation is clear, and the players will adjust to it. So, but it is, as I mentioned in that interview on the radio, it is to me a fundamental change in the game, because we've always there's always been an onus on protecting the player going for the ball. Now what we're saying is we're protecting the player that's second to the ball. So it's not for me to say whether it's right or wrong. I'm just observing that to me is a fundamental change in the game.
2 wins, 2 losses in a row rather. How important is that to protect, and would be something that will be talked about?
It's not so much the 2 losses in a row, it's just let's get back to winning. We hate losing, full stop, and we'd love to go through and have no losses. The 2 losses in a row is really about getting back on the horse. So we know it's going to be a really even competition, and every opportunity to get 4 points, whether it be against the top side or the bottom side, you need to take it. And so the actual measure of not losing 2 in a row, it's a test of resilience. So you challenge one week and it didn't go how you planned. How are you able to respond the next week? So we were happy, as I mentioned, that most of the times we were challenged last year, we were able to come back and do something about it. So that's the challenge for the group, and I think it's something they would say is important to them.
Do you think there's any worries about a loss of confidence after? Because it wasn't a shock loss, but it just probably didn't pan out. Do you think the players maybe
I don't know. Loss of confidence. Is Scott Thompson not confident? Is Patrick Dangerfield not confident? I wouldn't have thought so. I think those guys would back themselves in to be able to respond. And I've just picked 2 guys, but there's probably a lot of other guys who would look back on that performance and say, you know what, I'm not happy with that, and they would assume that they will perform better this week.
Just what was your feedback to Taylor Walker, and what do you think the reasons were that he got sucked up around a bit?
Look, a part of it was our slow ball movement. So quite often the ball went from the centre square into their forward line. So then what happens then is their defenders push up the ground to try and lock it in their forward line. So our forwards obviously have to push up to make sure that they're ready to give a contest when the ball comes out. Now, if the ball's forever going into their forward line and we're having to try and score, we have to go the length of the ground. That means that those guys are going to spend a bit of time up on the wing. Now, did that happen last year when we played poorly? It happened last year. So, like I said, part of it will be about how we firstly are able to, where we win the ball, and if we're able to turn the ball over in our front half, that obviously means that Taylor's in the vicinity of goal. If we have to bring it back from the back pocket all the way down, then sure, Taylor's going to spend some time up around that area. And I bet you if you watch most other teams and other key forwards, that they're doing exactly the same thing. So I think the fact that it was that the ball spent a lot of time in Essendon's front half was probably exacerbated a bit, and we noticed it.
Marcus Sam Jacobs 100% fit.
Absolutely, yeah.
So just finally, it's only one game obviously. The Bombers look to you a bit better than last year. The paper was surprising a few.
Well, if you look back at last year, do you know what the record was after 10 games, the Bombers?
You know, that's what I mean.
Yeah, 9-1. Yeah, so when they had their players out there, they performed really well, and they had their players out there on the weekend. So they got the Brownlow medalist in the midfield. You know, they got 2 genuine rucks in Ryder and Bell Chambers. They got one of those guys up forward along with Cramery and Hurley. And their backs, they've got some good tall backs as well. So, they're well equipped to be able to play some really good footy. And I thought they showed that last year when they had a full squad, but they were obviously decimated through injury and probably weren't able to show that in the second half of the year. So, I think Essendon will be a strong team.